Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Welcome back, everybody, to the Near Memo, where we talk about search, social, and commerce through a local lens. And I have no idea what episode this is. It's 118, 119, could be 135.
Somewhere in that vicinity. We also have the sneaky unnumbered episode too.
That's right. The special editions.
You have a variance of three. In your
yes,
guess.
and if you haven't seen the Mark Prelow special edition Near Memo, where we talk to him about the future of mapping, it's very, very interesting, worth your time. But today we will be talking about social media and Google's. Mike will be talking about TikTok, a topic that he doesn't talk about very much, so I'm interested to hear what he has to say. I'll be talking about the Google Perspectives button, which is Google sort of ingesting social media into search. And then David's going to be talking about a couple of different things, a Whitespark tool, and then the Buy Owner button that was spotted, I guess, by Barry, or reported by Barry Schwartz on the Google Business Profile. So with that, Mike, I was picking the right word to introduce you, and my brain froze. A couple of words collided in my brain. Anyway, with that, go ahead.
So two stories about TikTok struck me this past week. The first I ran into in the Google forums as a product expert, where a very small business in Philadelphia, a salon, a viral video about bad service caused them to receive, they had about 40 reviews. Now they have 80 reviews, and the 40 they got are all 1 stars. And they all came from a TikTok video. And the other article was one titled, American Companies Held Hostage by the Whims of TikTok, in the Wall Street Journal. And if you actually read the article, if you saw that title, you'd think, oh my goodness, what's going on? But if you read the article, the subtitle was, it's a billion-person focus group, how TikTok influences brands, which I thought was a much better title. And it was a story about how Chipotle actually introduced a new product because Keith Lee, an influencer there, created a custom product for Chipotle, and everybody was ordering it, and it was driving all the employees crazy because it meant you had to grab 3 different things to create it. And they then introduced a product to actually serve that need. And so then I was thinking, well, maybe they aren't holding Chipotle hostage. Maybe the problem is Chipotle is not flexible enough to deal with these kinds of demands. Maybe that's really the problem with consumers, but it doesn't matter. So Chipotle invented a new product because of this billion people focus group. And then they go on to talk about a salad dressing that was pink and how influencer created it, and she couldn't produce it quickly, but Dave's Gourmet, a specialty food company, figured out how to do it, got it on the market in 90 days, and was very successful with the product, as was the influencer. And the first one I talked about was just this a young teenage woman who does a beauty channel. She typically gets about 10,000 likes. And she had a bad nail day where she had a big event coming, and she went to a salon and they screwed up her nails. And she had a breakdown on TikTok over this. She was wrought with distress about the failure of the salon. And
it was a $35 transaction, we should mention.
It was a $35 transaction, and she went in, she got the courage to go in and complain, and they laughed in her face, and they paid the price. Now, she normally gets 10,000 likes. She got 600,000 likes on this post. And it struck me that while TikTok doesn't have a great discovery local play yet, it influences local through its mass scale and its reiterative algorithm. It creates so much, so many views. I think this one video had 4 million views of the girl with the problem with her nails. Whether she's sympathetic or not is in dispute amongst the 3 of us, but it doesn't matter. She was able to generate through this like 40 or 50 fake reviews on this this small salon in Philadelphia by virtue of her. And it just, this and the other story reflect this $1 billion focus group that TikTok has become through the nature of its algorithm, and its influence on local is more tangential than intentional at this point, but still fascinating, right? That Chipotle is creating products, or that this poor salon is having to cope with these fake reviews.
The moral of the story is, if you're a salon owner, you should move to Montana, where the governor is banning TikTok, and then you won't have to deal with any of this.
That's right. Where TikTok is funding the lawsuit against that banning.
Or when somebody comes in, the other moral is when somebody comes in and complains about a nail job, no matter how prissy they might seem, you need to take them seriously and not laugh at them.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
Mike,
I think
this is your old 2010 dictum on steroids that used to be: person had a bad experience, they told 10 friends, now they write a review and 1,000 people see it. Well, now they do a TikTok video and 1 million people see it.
Yeah, that's right. 4 million people see it, right? Yeah. So the whole story here is suck less, right? I mean, that service becomes critical. And TikTok just accentuates these issues.
There's no predictability here, right? You can't know whose video is going to go viral or what is going to get a lot of exposure,
which makes it hard as a marketing channel, right? But it still means you have to be prepared for it as a business.
You from a customer service standpoint, I mean, the lesson is very, very, very simple. It's if this nail salon had said, "We're sorry, here's your $35 back," this wouldn't have happened.
And I think
full
from
stop.
a Chipotle point of view, or any of these companies, the lesson is quite clear. Be a little more flexible in your structure, and when a hit takes off, do what Chipotle did: turn it into a product.
Well,
right?
Don't
fight this, right?
That's a more difficult issue. Is how do brands and marketers really kind of on that side, leverage, to use the overused word, a platform like TikTok. I mean, David and I talked to Craig Mount, the peanut butter guy, a year ago or something.
Previously a local SEO.
Right.
Yeah, is that his LinkedIn title? Peanut butter.
No, Nerdy Nuts.
Nerdy Nuts. Thank you. Let's
the name escaped me. The name escaped me for a moment. But he's
as did his adjectives for me.
Yeah, but he's doing exactly what you're recommending for Chipotle. Right. I mean, he's a much smaller producer, but his whole business was built on TikTok, and he really has a symbiotic relationship with the platform and the influencers on the platform, and he takes feedback from those people, and that helps him develop new flavors. So he's got a very, very kind of feedback loop going, whereas it's much harder for these big corporations that have millions or billions of dollars invested in their brands and their product lines, and have a much slower product development cycle to do this. But there's ways that they can interact with TikTok. Everything that you're saying about TikTok has always been true about social media generally. It's just more with TikTok.
It's amplified.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
TikTok. And the degree of that amplification is interesting. Now, I did make a non-TikTok recommendation to Nerdy Nuts and suggested that he might want to try probiotic peanut butter as opposed to junk food peanut butter. And he thought it was a great idea, but it never went anywhere. I guess.
Well, you need to record a TikTok video and have it go viral. That's right.
I'm eating this delicious probiotic peanut butter. Well, one of the problems with TikTok, which we don't need to digress into too much, is that you sort of never know exactly when somebody is promoting something, right? So one of the things about the woman who I think was in high school still, that complained about the nail salon, is that she just seemed very, very sincere. She was genuinely upset. It was obvious that she was telling the truth about what happened to her, and there was no agenda. She was just warning other people. And so the credibility of that was very powerful to people, and they empathized with her. And so they wanted to do something about it. A lot of these videos that involve products, somebody recommending a product, somebody demonstrating a product, you don't really know if it's promotional. They're supposed to label everything, but everybody is promoting. Almost everybody on TikTok is promoting something, it seems.
Yeah, I was sympathetic to her at one level. I mean, I do remember 60 years ago getting a bad haircut and crying about it, but I was 12. I wasn't 16 or 17.
That was 60 years ago?
It was 60 years ago, yeah. And I was really upset. And hey, it grew out and then it dropped out. So, hey, life goes on. But She doesn't even understand, though. Maybe she does. Maybe she wanted to punish this business, and maybe that, I don't know. While she was sincere, the real question is it ethical to do it? Is it, should that be happening?
Agreed.
I don't have a problem with her doing this personally, whether she was intending to punish the business or not. Like, I think that's all like totally fair game, free speech, everything else. I just think it's a very sad sort of outcome of social media that these are the kinds of messages that tend to go viral, and it's just like what an awful behavior and sort of mental state to reinforce that. Hey, if you have had this horrible experience and you sort of share that with the world, like that's how you get famous. Like it just seems like such a negative. It has potentially very negative implications for society if this kind of thing, continues to happen.
There's another side, which is, I've seen videos of people who are trying to, there's one that I think of that was in the news with I don't remember where they were located, Mexican restaurant, kind of family owned Mexican restaurant that was struggling economically. And the daughter who worked there as a hostess, I think, or as a waitress, did some TikTok videos sort of talking about her parents' situation, talking about the food and showing the restaurant, and it saved the restaurant, which is a totally positive story. And there are a bunch of those as well. So it's not only people who are bashing others or criticizing others getting exposure. There are positive stories as well. But I agree that social media amplifies everything, and it's been kind of a really, really mixed blessing for everybody. But the business of getting all this feedback is a good thing generally for companies if they're set up to take it seriously. And I could tell you a horrific story about customer service at T-Mobile, which I will not, because we're not, that's for another day. But that's
a very dedicated special edition.
That's for our upcoming TikTok channel, Greg.
Exactly. Well, I wound up going to the U.S. CEO, a guy named Mike Sievert, to tell him about my problem with the call center and some of the things that I was experiencing. And to his credit, he responded to me. I connected with him on LinkedIn. And the issue is all resolved, but it's just there's just a major gap between whether this is a small business small businesses are a little bit different, or big companies, about how they talk about customer service versus what they actually often deliver. But moving on.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.